Mom, I don't understand, I said, staring at the empty seats where my kids should have been sitting at my mother's birthday celebration in her New Jersey home. You specifically told me this was a grown UPS-only party. The confusion in my voice turned to disbelief as my brother Michael walked in with his wife and their 3 children, all dressed up and carrying perfectly wrapped presents. My mother's face lit up at their arrival, and she rushed to embrace her grandchildren. Grammy, they squealed in delight, while my heart sank, thinking of my own children, Emma and Lucas, who were at home with a babysitter because I'd respected my mother's wishes. "Oh, Carmela," my mother said, noticing my expression. "Michael's kids are different. They're special. I'm sure you understand." But I didn't understand. Not at all. All my children, Emma, age 8, and Lucas, age 6, were just as special, just as worthy of celebrating with their grandmother. As a single mom, I'd spend the morning wiping away their tears, explaining why they couldn't come to Grammy's birthday party, promising we'd do something special another day. "They're not different," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside. "They're all your grandchildren." My brother smirked slightly, adjusting his designer tie. "Come on, sis, you know your kids can be a handful. This way, everyone can enjoy themselves." A handful because Emma sometimes got overwhelmed in crowded spaces and Lucas preferred to express his enthusiasm through movement rather than sitting still. These were the same qualities that made them uniquely wonderful. I stood up from the elegantly set dining room table, my untouched appetizer forgotten. The family photos on the walls seemed to mock me now, carefully curated images where Michael's family featured prominently, while my children appeared only in group shots, usually at the edges. "Where are you going?" my mother asked, already distracted by Michael's youngest showing her a drawing. "We haven't even had dinner yet." I picked up my purse, my mind already forming a plan. My kids deserved better than this, and suddenly I knew exactly how to give it to them. "I'm going to spend the evening with my children," I said, my voice clear and confident. "All of us should be where we're truly appreciated." As I walked out, I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a number I hadn't called in years. Sometimes the universe has a way of providing exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. The drive home through the quiet New Jersey streets gave me time to reflect on the years of subtle exclusion my children had faced. It had started small, my mother forgetting to invite them to Sunday brunches, planning family events during their nap times when they were toddlers, always finding reasons why Michael's kids were easier to accommodate. I'd made excuses for her behavior, always trying to shield Emma and Lucas from the pain of rejection. But maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe they needed to learn that when people don't appreciate you, you create your own joy elsewhere. As I pulled into our driveway, I looked again at the contact I'd found on my phone, Antonio DeMarco, Culinary Institute. Tony and I had gone to high school together, and he'd gone on to become one of New Jersey's most celebrated young chefs. His restaurant, Giardino, was always packed, and my kids had been begging to go there after seeing his cooking videos online. I dialed his number, hoping he'd remember me. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Tony, it's Carmela Martinez from Ridgewood High." "Carmela. Oh my God, it's been forever. How are you?" The warmth in his voice brought tears to my eyes. "I'm okay. Listen, I have a strange request. Are you at the restaurant tonight?" I explained the situation, trying to keep my voice steady. Tony listened without interrupting, then said something that made me smile for the first time that evening. "Bring them over right now. I have the perfect idea." I walked into the house to find Emma and Lucas sitting with their babysitter, Jessica, attempting to play board games, but clearly downhearted. Emma's long dark hair was pulled back in her special occasion braid, hoping until the last minute that Grammy would change her mind about the party. "Mom." Lucas jumped up, his energy instantly returning. "You're back early. Did Grammy miss us?" The question broke my heart, but I wouldn't let them see my sadness. Instead, I grinned mysteriously. "How would you two like to go on an adventure?" Emma looked up cautiously. "What kind of adventure?" I pulled up one of Tony's cooking videos on my phone. How would you like to meet this chef and maybe learn how to make something special in his kitchen? Their eyes widened with excitement. Really? They gasped in unison. Really? Sometimes the best celebrations are the ones we create for ourselves. The lights of downtown Montclair twinkled as we pulled up to Giardino. The restaurant's warm glow spilled onto the sidewalk, and through the windows, we could see the busy dining room filled with happy patrons. Emma clutched her notebook, the one where she wrote down recipes from cooking shows, while Lucas bounced excitedly beside her. Are we really going to cook in a real restaurant? Emma asked, her earlier disappointment forgotten in the face of this new adventure. That's the plan, sweetheart. I smoothed her carefully braided hair. And you know what? You're already dressed perfectly for a special evening. Tony was waiting at the door, his chef's whites crisp and clean despite the dinner rush. His face broke into a huge smile when he saw us. The Martinez family. Come in, come in. He knelt down to Emma and Lucas's level. I hear you two are interested in cooking. Lucas nodded enthusiastically. I can make scrambled eggs all by myself. And I've been learning about herbs, Emma added shyly, showing him her notebook. I have a little garden on our windowsill. Tony's eyes lit up as he flipped through Emma's careful notes. This is impressive. You know, I started just like you, growing herbs in my mom's kitchen when I was about your age. He led us through the bustling dining room to a special table with a view of the open kitchen. The aromas of fresh herbs and sautéing garlic filled the air, and I watched my children's faces glow with wonder as they took in the orchestrated chaos of a professional kitchen. First, Tony announced, we'll have a proper dinner. Then, if you're interested, I thought we might create something special for dessert. He winked at the kids. I could use some expert help with my famous tiramisu. Can we really help? Emma asked, her eyes wide. Of course. I'll even give you special chef's aprons, he said, glancing at me with understanding. Every great chef needs to start somewhere, and my kitchen welcomes all kinds of special talent. The emphasis he placed on special was different from my mother's, where she used it to exclude. Tony used it to celebrate what made each person unique. I watched as a server brought fresh-baked focaccia to our table, the herbs on top matching the ones Emma grew at home. I took the liberty of planting a tasting menu, Tony said. Everything child-friendly but sophisticated. No dumbed-down kids' meals here. In my kitchen, we respect all our chefs, no matter their age. Looking at my children's excited faces, I felt the last traces of hurt from earlier beginning to fade. Sometimes rejection just redirects you to where you were meant to be all along. The tasting menu was a parade of delights that made us forget all about my mother's party. Each dish came with a story from Tony about its origin, and he encouraged the kids to guess the ingredients. Lucas correctly identified the sage in the butternut squash ravioli, while Emma impressed everyone by detecting the subtle hint of rosemary in the roasted chicken. You have quite the sophisticated palate, Tony told Emma, who beamed with pride. Would you like to see how we make our herb blend? As we finished our main course, Tony brought out 2 pristine white chef's aprons, each embroidered with Giardino Jr. Chef in gold thread. The kids' eyes lit up as he helped them put them on, carefully rolling up the sleeves to fit their small arms. Now, Tony announced, leading us into the kitchen, who's ready to make some magic? The kitchen was a wonderland of stainless steel and organized chaos. Staff members smiled warmly at the children, and Tony introduced them properly. Everyone, meet our special guest chefs for the evening. Emma here is our herb expert, and Lucas is our enthusiast in training. Welcome to the brigade, called out several chefs using proper kitchen terminology that made the kids stand taller with pride. Tony set up a special station for them with all ingredients measured and ready. Safety first, he explained, showing them how to properly hold utensils and handle hot items. Emma took careful notes in her book while Lucas watched with uncharacteristic focus. First, we make the coffee mixture for soaking the ladyfingers, Tony explained. Lucas, would you like to help me count how many we need? Lucas, who sometimes struggled to sit still in school, counted each cookie with perfect attention. 24, he announced proudly. Exactly right. Emma, could you help me mix the mascarpone filling? The key is to fold it gently, just like how you handle those delicate herbs in your garden. I watched in amazement as my children worked together with none of their usual squabbling. Emma showed surprising patience, helping her brother, and Lucas listened carefully to her suggestions. Mom, Emma called out, take a picture of us mixing. I snapped several photos of them working, their faces focused and joyful. Without thinking, I posted one to my social media with the caption, "My amazing chefs creating magic at Gardino. Thank you, Chef Tony, for making this night unforgettable." Almost immediately, likes and comments started pouring in. My phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Sophia, who was at my mother's party. OMG, is that the Chef DeMarco? The kids look so happy. Things are pretty tense here. You definitely chose the better celebration, Mom. Look, Lucas called out carefully, piping a mascarpone cream rosette, just as Tony had demonstrated. I did it. Perfect technique. Tony praised. You know, I teach weekend cooking classes for kids, and we could really use that piping skill. I watched my children flourish under his kindness and acceptance, realizing that sometimes the family you need isn't always the family you're born into. As we assembled our tiramisu, the restaurant's social media manager, Maria, asked if she could take some photos for their Instagram. Emma and Lucas posed proudly with their creation, their Gardino chef aprons dusted with cocoa powder, their smiles radiant with accomplishment. Would it be okay if we shared these? Maria asked, showing me the photos. We're starting a new weekend cooking program for kids, and these capture exactly what we're trying to create, joy in the kitchen. I glanced at Tony, who was showing Lucas how to make the perfect chocolate garnish. The program's something I've been wanting to do for a while, he explained. Teaching kids who truly love food, regardless of their learning style or energy level. Everyone belongs in the kitchen. The warmth in his voice made me think of all the times my mother had excluded my children because they didn't fit her idea of proper behavior. Here, Lucas's enthusiasm was channeled into creative energy, and Emma's quiet attention to detail was celebrated rather than labeled as being too serious. Of course you can share the photos, I said to Maria. And tell me more about this cooking program. While the tiramisu chilled, Tony gave the kids a tour of the herb garden on the restaurant's rooftop terrace. The New Jersey skyline twinkled behind them as Emma excitedly identified different plants, while Lucas carefully smelled each herb, declaring which dishes they would enhance. My phone kept buzzing with notifications. The photos were spreading through our community's social networks, drawing attention not just to Gardino's upcoming program, but to the bigger question of inclusion. Comments poured in from other parents of children who didn't quite fit the traditional mold. This is amazing. My son would love this. He can't sit still in regular classes, but comes alive in the kitchen. Finally, a program that celebrates different learning styles. Is there a waiting list? Even some of my mother's friends were commenting, their subtle messages clear. Wonderful to see children being appreciated for their unique gifts. Some people could learn from this. Tony joined me as I read through the responses. You know, he said thoughtfully, I struggled in traditional settings as a kid. Cooking saved me. It gave me a place where my creativity and energy were assets, not problems. That's what I want to create here. He watched as Emma patiently explained to Lucas the difference between oregano and thyme. Your children are fantastic. Emma has such a sophisticated understanding of flavors, and Lucas's enthusiasm is exactly what a kitchen needs. Would they be interested in being part of our first regular weekend class? Not just as students. Emma could help mentor younger kids about herbs, and Lucas has a natural talent for demonstrating techniques. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a call from Michael. I declined it, watching instead as my children flourished in this space that celebrated exactly who they were. Let him and my mother wonder why their perfect party was being overshadowed by photos of my handful of kids creating culinary magic. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about finding your own path to shine. When we returned to the kitchen, our tiramisu had set perfectly. Tony showed the kids how to do the final decoration, teaching Emma the perfect dusting technique for the cocoa powder, while Lucas created chocolate curls for garnish. The entire kitchen staff gathered to admire their work. "These look professional," Tony declared, taking more photos. "Would you mind if we added these to our dessert menu? We could call them Emma and Lucas's Junior Chef Tiramisu, with a portion of the proceeds going to fund scholarships for our weekend cooking program." The kids' eyes widened with disbelief. "Our names on the real menu?" Emma whispered. "Absolutely." Tony smiled. "Every great chef deserves credit for their creations." My phone buzzed again. More messages from family members at my mother's party. My Aunt Diana had written, "Just saw the photos. The kids look so happy and confident. Your mother is upset that everyone keeps talking about their cooking adventure instead of her party. Maybe this will teach her something about inclusion." Another message popped up from my cousin James. "Michael's kids are throwing tantrums because they want to be cooking at the fancy restaurant too. Karma is real. Haha." I put my phone away, choosing instead to focus on the moment. The kitchen staff had arranged a special tasting of the kids' tiramisu, complete with a mini judges panel that offered professional feedback. Lucas beamed as they praised his chocolate work, while Emma glowed when they commented on her perfect layering technique. "You know," Tony said quietly as we watched them, "I'm starting a charity foundation to make our cooking programs accessible to all kids. Would you and the children like to be on the advisory board? We need people who understand the importance of creating inclusive spaces." Before I could respond, Maria rushed over with her tablet. The photos have gone viral in the local foodie community. Several restaurants are asking about starting similar inclusive programs. And look at the comments. Finally, someone recognizing that all children have gifts. This is what real family support looks like. Can't wait to bring my 2 energetic sons to these classes. The best comment came from Mrs. Peterson, my mother's oldest friend. "These children are absolutely precious and talented. Some grandmothers don't know what they're missing." Tony gathered everyone for a final photo, Emma and Lucas in their junior chef aprons, proudly holding their creations, surrounded by the supportive kitchen staff. It was everything a family photo should be: genuine smiles, natural poses, and pure joy. "Mom," Emma said as Tony showed her how to properly wrap their tiramisu to take home, "can we do this every year instead of Grammy's party?" "Even better," Tony interjected with a wink. "How about every weekend? Our junior chef program runs Sunday mornings, perfect for a mother-child cooking tradition." Looking at my children's happy faces, I realized we'd found something far more valuable than inclusion in my mother's carefully curated family gatherings. We'd found our own tradition, our own community, and our own way to shine. The next morning, our kitchen filled with the aroma of fresh coffee as Emma and Lucas proudly shared their tiramisu with Jessica, our regular babysitter. The joy of the previous evening still lingered, made even sweeter by the stream of supportive messages continuing to flood my social media. "Mrs. Martinez," Jessica said, savoring a bite, "this is amazing. I saw the photos last night. Everyone at my college is talking about Jardin's new kids program. They're saying it's going to change how restaurants think about children's cooking classes." My mother had left 3 voicemails and 5 text messages, all unopened. Instead, I focused on helping Emma plan her first herb workshop for the weekend program, while Lucas practiced his piping techniques with whipped cream on morning waffles. "Mom," Emma said thoughtfully, arranging her herb guide handouts, "I was sad about missing Grammy's party, but I think we found something better. This feels like we're making our own special thing." Lucas nodded vigorously, a dot of whipped cream on his nose. "Yeah, and Chef Tony says I can help teach the little kids how to count ingredients. He says my energy makes math more fun." The doorbell rang. It was Tony, dropping off their official junior chef jackets for the weekend program. "The first class is already full," he announced. Turns out there are a lot of families looking for a place where their kids can just be themselves. As I watched my children try on their jackets, posing for yet another photo that would undoubtedly make its way through our community, I realized that sometimes life's sweetest moments come from creating your own celebrations rather than fighting for a place at someone else's table. 1 month later, Gardino's first official junior chef weekend program launched, with Emma and Lucas helping to welcome 15 excited children. The local newspaper covered the event, featuring a photo of my children teaching others, Emma demonstrating her herb expertise, while Lucas showed younger kids how to make chocolate decorations. My mother finally stopped calling after I sent her a copy of the newspaper article with a simple note: "We found where we belong." Michael's wife reached out separately, asking if their kids could join the program. I directed her to the website like any other parent, no special treatment needed. The kitchen became our Sunday tradition. Each weekend, Emma expanded her herb garden knowledge, eventually starting a small business selling herb-growing kits to other aspiring young chefs. Lucas discovered that his boundless energy made him a natural entertainer, and his cooking demonstration videos on Jardin's social media gained a devoted following. Tony and I worked together to expand the program to other restaurants in New Jersey, creating a network of inclusive spaces where all children could discover their culinary talents. The waiting list grew longer each week, but we made sure to reserve spots for kids who, like mine, needed a place to shine in their own way. "You know what, Mom?" Emma said one Sunday as we prepared for another class. "I don't feel sad about Grammy's parties anymore. We made something better." Lucas looked up from his chocolate piping. "Yeah, and we get to share it with everyone. That's the thing about exclusion. Sometimes it leads you exactly where you were meant to be all along."